ISK Legacy, we know the drill. This week, it all came down to matchups, performances. Did you have one of the people who had the dud or even unlikely got hurt? Did you have one of the few? We had rockets. We had in wide receiver and in running back. Our number one was so far above everybody else that if you had them, you just kiss the stars, I guess, and you are somehow blessed, so congratulations. We know the breakdown. We know how things are going to work, so this all sets us up to the matchups that we are going to be focusing on for our last week, which is next week. So once again, I am foregoing the NFL breakdown in this particular video. I'm going to save a lot of that for next week's stuff. We're getting right to our fantasy matchups, so what happened in Week 16, and then I take a look at what is going to happen in our final week. Enjoy. Starting off in the consolation side, and here's the bummer of being in consolation, and this is why the regular season has so much more importance and kind of why I'm going to go for the 6 next year. I think it's really important that you get those standings and then you get your positions, but then it doesn't matter. It really comes down to your last couple weeks. And Jeff, you had the second highest score of the week, top to bottom, so had you been in the top 4 and not playing Connor like I was, you'd be in the final, so it's something to kind of build on for next year. However, though, your team was quite inconsistent throughout the year and you really only came on late, so you can see how that's kind of messed up. Now, how you did it, though, I think it's pretty clear. We don't have to scroll too far down. I mean, Purdy has to be a massive disappointment for you, pretty much losing his MVP chances prime time in front of everybody. But Cooper, my goodness, I mean, I could be watching the game and I still wouldn't bet on this. I don't know if anyone actually did watch the game. It wasn't just the fact that he had that massive catch to start it off. It was like a 75-yard touchdown. All of his catches were actually quite tight. They were tough. They were like, this was one of the better receiving performances, full stop, of the year. And it's Amani freaking Cooper coming from Flacco. Not much you can do, and that's why fantasy is both the greatest and the worst thing of all time. Not that the rest of the team was a slouch. Higgins, this is the second week in a row. That was a huge overperformance for you, which was nice. It really made up for the fact that Etienne and Purdy really did let you down. Charbonnet really let you down. Kansas City should have had a dominant performance against Vegas. They did not. But it didn't matter. You still had some points on the bench. Kmet was actually our tight end 3, and he was sitting there for you, although you had Kittle, who was our tight end 1. But weirdly, that both tight ends would have been a better flex pay, or Osborne. But then again, Osborne, more the injury thing with Addison, that kind of helped him out. So you can't really complain. I mean, most of your guys either hit the predicteds or around, and then you had people like, the doublers here, but then it doesn't matter. You get 60 points from one person. It just is what it is. Ken, you've had a pretty frustrating year all in. You've had pretty much weeks where you've been the worst and weeks where you've been by far the best. So you're someone that when you go up against, you never really know what you're going up against. Unfortunately for you, there was the Sutton injury early, and that cost you with the bagel. Dallas's defense hasn't really done anything for you since about midway through the season. They've only had one second half kind of big performance like they did at the beginning. You got to be happy with Ingram. He was our tight end 4. You got to be happy with Fields, quarterback 4. Hill did fine. I mean, you expect anywhere from 5 to 100 points from him. So the fact that he almost completely and meticulously hit as predicted feels weird. Almost feels like an underperformance. There's not much we can really say. Or Allen, I should say too, was also the quarterback too. So you were dominating the quarterback field, 2 in the top 5, especially when you look against Purdy. And Stafford played pretty well. They did not crack. By the way, our 5th quarterback, for anyone doing some QB shopping this holiday season, Rudolph, the Red Nose quarterback, did come through with a 5th performance. Do you think he can do it again? Someone will bite. They always do. In any case, Kent, you're off to the 8th place bowl. Now, fortunately for us, this is not the toilet bowl because our bottom couple didn't even make the playoffs. So this is really just for pride and for 7th place. Jeff, there's only 2 people in this entire league that are going to finish this season with 2 playoff wins back-to-back, and that's our champion and our consolation champion. You get a chance to be our consolation champion next week. On the other side of that consolation championship will be Timmer. Tim came through, another person that has his highs and his lows, but is tough to beat when he's on. Taking a look at how he did it, again, I didn't really mention this, but one of the crazy things about this week is the fact that Amani Cooper's performance at number 1 wide receiver was so far ahead of the number 2. You can say the same thing here with Hall. He was so far ahead of our running back 2, almost doubled his points. This was quite exceptional. And to come from him where you never really know where it's going, that pretty much put you ahead. Even Henry, your running backs were number 1 and number 5. Jefferson, this is the game you've been waiting on, did not crack the top 10, top 5, definitely cracked the top 10. So you must have been happy with that. But really, you were that person who kind of had, Laporta disappointed you. Apparently all the catches were going to Cooper, not more. So you really can't, you did have your moderate performance bits, but you just had those kind of 2 or 3 shooting ahead, and that's all you really needed. Mayfield's been a huge steal for you this year, and especially you are one of the few people who have 1 quarterback in a 2 QB league. Did not hurt you this week. In fact, had you gone with swinging Sammy Howell, it not only would have cost you points, it actually would have cost you points being in the negative. And you did have some options there on defense with Baltimore fishing around. Actually, Baltimore would have been the only top 5 defense that anyone owned, and you didn't put it in, so you did leave some points there. Woody, this is disappointing. Since I'm looking at the bench right now, I can just remind you, or maybe rub salt in the wound, that Njoku was actually the tight end 5, but you needed more than just one performance here. I think your problem was you had a lot of steady performances. Obviously, we'll get to your defense in a second. Mozart looking like he was going to do well and then got hurt and knocked out. That kind of blew the wind out of your sails, but you had people at or above. Barkley, you got to be happy with that performance. Zay Flowers doubling up, but you needed 1 or 2 people just to have those big performances. It is the playoffs. You got to show up, and unfortunately, you didn't really have that. Now, in terms of your defense, you did not have a backup defense, and I think gutsy with New Orleans against the Rams. The Rams have been on fire recently. They're scoring a lot of points, and unfortunately for you, New Orleans couldn't have held on. I say unfortunately because the other 4 of the top 5 defenses are free agents this week with Vegas, Tampa Bay, New England, and Pitt. So you did have some opportunity there to maybe steal something, but that's really tough. Let's be honest. You went into a week in the playoffs. Playoffs, notoriously, we underperform. We overthink things, and we don't put in the right people, or people underperform in general because the people that have been great all season aren't necessarily the people that are playing great now. You overperformed on your Yahoo predicteds, and usually that's good enough, but fortunately not this week. So you'll see down in the 7th, you can battle Kent to see who gets the coveted 7th position, whereas Timmer, you're going to be Dibbler in the consolation final. Who's in our top 4, and how is our final in bronze looking? Let's take a look. Fantasy sucks. It sucks. Last week I said it was awesome because last week I won. This week I played the number 1. And this is the 2nd year in a row. I should check this, but I think just by general memory, I'm pretty sure I was knocked out by Koopa Troopas last year in the semifinal and then was also in the bronze. Not a flex to say I was in the bronze 2 years in a row. That's actually disappointment. Unfortunately for me too, if you look at the scores, now I'm going to just ignore the bottom 4. Whoop. In the top 4, I could have played the other 2 and made it to the finals. I hate fantasy. I hate it so much. Anyway, well done, Connor and Seamus. It was kind of a group drubbing. You didn't have the series, like the one person like Cooper or Hall go off. However, you had a ton of guys that did do quite well. Pakanakua was number 3 overall and 38 points. Give me a break. Ridley was not in the top 5, but the second I saw Ridley get over 20 points, I'm like, damn it, it's just that kind of week. And especially, think about this. Did Lawrence only throw him the ball? I don't understand how a quarterback does horrible and a running or a wide receiver. Actually, I know how it works. That sucks. But Lawrence was a little bit hurt and played horrendous. That really cost me. Let's talk about you though. Got to be feeling weird about Bijan. Such a tough start. He had a great game, but he's not getting as many carries as Algiers. I'm going to go on at least one more rant before the end of the year about the Atlanta's offense, but I just don't understand it. Gibbs, though, was fantastic. I know a lot of people were worried at the beginning of the year how many carries he was going to get. He's doing just fine with touches on either side. He was our running back 3, so you got to be happy with that. I think looking at your bench, there's no one else I'd really point to that could have been a massive upgrade. I mean, yes, you could have put in Russell Wilson over Patrick Mahomes. That would have been the gutsy call of the year. You did leave your top quarterback on the bench, but let's be honest, from start to finish, this was fine. Washington put up a bit more fight against the Jets than I thought, so I was happy with that. But then again, so did Houston against Cleveland. For me, I think it was just I was happy. Obviously, St. Brown was the wide receiver 4. I was happy with Olave coming out the gates, felt pretty good about things, but Kamara fell on his face. Cook, who went off last week, kind of fell on his face. White's been kind of sneaky, kind of winning player for me, but I just didn't have it. If you look at the bench, yeah, I could have done a bit more, but I wasn't touching 190. I needed Cooper or Hall in a week like this, so it is what it is. I will once again be relegated. I was finished 3rd in the regular season. Was in the bronze last year. I guess I was destined for this freaking game. Connor, Seamus, you were a top team last year. You're going back to the finals, back-to-back years. Last year, if you remember, was a weird one, and we'll get to that when I get to the preview, but Best of luck in the finals, guys. Okay, this one just sucks. Not for Gene. Congrats, buddy. I mean, number one in the league. Sometimes you get upset in these, and you were kind of primed for it, unfortunately. You had a bunch of guys underperform for you. You had a bunch of injury issues. I know you're making a ton of moves, and you're putting your heart and soul into this one. So I'm going to talk about you first. I mean, Williams was a massive pickup, but he didn't even get his his high predicted. Hawkinson goes down and he's out for the year, so you're shopping for a tight end. We'll look at that in a second. Waddle gets hurt. He goes out. Deebo Samuel looks mortal. This has the makings of an upset. Now, fortunately for you, you drove your car straight into this one. Carr was actually our quarterback 3. All the guts in the world to Eugene for putting him in there. I've had to play him in other leagues, and he's good when you don't watch him. I mean, he's getting booed by his own players. He came out huge for you, 3 touchdowns and 300 plus yards. You also had our quarterback 1 on your freaking bench, dude. Flacco is killing it right now. Now, will he again? I don't know. 3 straight games with 300 yards. He's apparently the 4th oldest guy to do that. But how long does the Flacco ride last? Who freaking knows? So best of luck picking who you're going to play next week. I think you're in tough against Connor and Seamus. But hey, you've put up massive points before. You can do it again. So congrats, Gene, on making your first final. Maxon, I'm leading up to this one. This one just sucks for you. You had McCaffrey's huge performance. Gabe Dave you put in there, and you must have been nervous and shaking putting him in. But he went off for you in a massive way. The big 2, Addison gets hurt early, and that's the kiss of death. You start the game, and then you're done. But Willie Levis, right before the game, getting pulled shortly before. And there he is on the bench. Now, Bryce Young I don't know, man. He wouldn't have been a guy you're confident in starting. You wouldn't have felt good about it. But yeah, you only needed 5 points. I'm sorry, dude. Chase was hurt. Watson's hurt. Brown was out. You were reeling. I mean, let's be honest. The decision for Gabe Dave wasn't a decision. It was who was healthy and who was available on the free agent market. With Addison hurt, I'm trusting at least one of these idiots are going to come back for you. San Francisco's defense should have a bounce back week. The stars aligned in all the wrong ways here. You had the door open. You had the possibility, and then it just slipped from you at the last minute. So McCaffrey's performance was wasted. He was our running back too. Even Najee, it's a couple weeks now that he's done all right for you. Just ultimately at the end of the day, it really came down to that quarterback, and it came down to injuries. I mean, like I said, fantasy is the worst and the best. But I'll see you in the bronze. Gene, congrats in the final. Let's go through next week's matchups now, starting from bottom to top. I'll try and kick it kind of quick here for the previews, but knowing me, that's a 50-50. How are we phasing here in terms of matchups? Quarterback, I expect it to be tight, although Fields and Allen have been going off, and they can do it both on their feet and their hands. They both are teams that need something. Allen wants to make the playoffs. Fields wants his job for next year. With Hurts and Tua, it could be interesting. Tua's just got the rough draw. Baltimore's defense has been pretty tough, so I'd give a slight edge to Kent on this one. Receivers, though, it's really tough. I mean, Sutton could be hurt, and Metcalf's okay, and DJ Moore has gone off. It's how good is Tyreek Hill? Is he going to have a Tyreek Hill week? If he does, Kent gets the edge. If he doesn't, as an overall receiver group, I'd go with Woody on this one. Running backs, I'm definitely going with Woody, except for the fact that we could potentially have an injury, but Barkley can slide in there quite nicely. Gus the Bus and Williams, running backs have been Kent's weakness all year. If you look on his bench, he doesn't have a whole lot of options unless Sanders is going to come out and have the game of the year. We also just looking here at some of the, I mentioned quarterbacking options. We are low in the pool, but again, Rudolph's available. Who wants to be risky? Tight end. It's I'd say season-wise, I'm going with Ingram on this one. Goddard kindly woke up and actually had a decent week. And then with defense, this is the tough part, right? I mean, overall, Dallas has a better defense. But are they going to score more against Detroit? Detroit could be a sneaky down team next week. This could be a good matchup for Kent. Detroit doesn't really have anything to play for. They won the North. They're probably going to get the 3 overall seed in the NFC if they win or lose. Dallas kind of needs this one. Be interesting. On the other side, this is a battle for the South. New Orleans is still in it. Tampa Bay currently is the lead. New Orleans weirdly has their own destiny in hand if they win out in terms of the NFL-wise. How's this going to work? Who knows? You got Stevenson possibly coming back. And Njoku, like I said, has been a great tight end recently. Is he going to outplay Goddard? You got some decisions to make. Yahoo thinks it's close. I think it's close too. They should go down to the wire. And who really wants the 7th spot more? That's what's really going to shift the scales on this one. Our consolation final, same. I can say who shifts it more, who wants it more. I'm assuming both of you are in a similar time zone, I think, right now. I don't know by the time this plays. I would assume, Tim, if you flew all the way down there to Central America, you're staying there for the whole ride. So let's see how that goes. Quarterbacks, your guess is as good as mine. Now, in this particular case, quarterbacks, Dibbler's got the edge. Stafford's playing great. Giants aren't great. Washington kind of sucks, and Purdy's got to want his pride back just a little bit. But Mayfield has been great. So, I mean, overall, because he's got two, and if you put in Swing and Sammy Howell, or will you go ahead and make the Rudolph move and have some guts? I don't know. So Dibbler probably gets the edge, but it's a little bit of a weird question on that one. Wide receivers, I mean, you got to go Timmer on this one. He's got Kupp and Jefferson. If they're healthy, then that's it. I mean, Higgins and Smith and Cooper, though, outscored them last week, so who knows? Fantasy's weird. Running backs is also another interesting one. Like Breece Hall with healthy and Henry, when healthy, can do quite well. Now you got Jones and Warren, who aren't really consistent or always guaranteed for you. Monty and Etienne have been, I mean, Etienne's had a few down weeks in a row, as had the Jacksonville, but Monty's been a touchdown factory. In terms of your tight ends, you got to go Kittle on this one just because, I mean, Laporta's have been our tight end one a bunch of weeks, but Kittle just in general does pretty well. Now, San Francisco could be interesting if they're up big, what the game script looks like, but who knows there. And then defenses, I think Kansas City's got a better matchup. Baltimore's looking like it can shred some defenses, although let's be honest, if you didn't actually watch the game and you're looking at stats, you're going to think that Baltimore's offense walked all over San Francisco. They did not. San Francisco kept turning the ball over, so Baltimore got it in really good spots. If you look at the actual productivity, Baltimore did have a tough time moving the ball. In general against San Francisco, it's just overall getting that kind of field position. They wore them down. A few decisions to make because you got Baltimore's D, so you're going to be choosing between that matchup. I'm assuming, I mean, Kmet was in the top 5 for tight ends last week. He was number 3, so he's an option for you there as well, even though you got a good one, but maybe at flex. This one's going to be to who sets their lineup, who takes a look, and is Cooper going to go off again? Is Hall going to go off again? Only time will tell. Maxon, this is not the game I wanted to play against you. If this was going to go down this way, I think we were both hoping for the finals. But let's make do with what we can. A bronze is still a bronze is still a bronze. I know we've been in that coaching room before. We've given this pep talk where deep down in the back of the head, we're pissed we didn't make the finals. But we tell the troops, you got to rally. This game has to mean something. This is about us, not them. This is about proving something. We all have different versions of this speech. You know where I'm going with it. Now, can we give a speech to our boys? If I'm your coach, if I'm you, I'm giving my speech, stay freaking healthy, because that's just been kicking you in the nards, not just the last couple weeks, but really throughout the year. If Chase is healthy, I'm scared. If Brown is healthy against Philly, that's actually, I think, a good matchup. Looking at your bench, you are going to have some choices. Does Gabe Dave get involved? Can I handle Gabe Dave getting involved? I don't know. Addison as well, coming off the injury. Who knows? And who knows what they do week by week. Minnesota looks like a totally different team. So good luck with that algorithm trying to figure that out. For me, I mean, I think I might have the quarterback matchup in terms of the edge just with Lamar Jackson, but Goff against Dallas, you never know. If you're going young against Jacksonville, I actually like that matchup. I think Jacksonville's on a slide and everyone knows it. Will you go with Levis? Can you trust Levis again? Are you going to be a Rudolph supporter next week? Are you going to make a bid there? I picked up Heineke last minute because I knew Lawrence had some injury issues, and we got Brown against KC. Those aren't matchups I really love, but will I pull the trigger? I do have a Thursday night decision to make. I'm going to take Cleveland on the Jets. I mean, but they don't have the turnover factor like they've had before, but Cleveland's defense, I just got to believe in them. Let's see what happens. Which running backs can I trust? Kamara fell getting out of the car last week. Cook didn't do anything, and he's against a tough defense. White's been a sneaky all-star for me so far, so he's probably going to do nothing because, up is down and down is left. I think the biggest thing for you, and I think the thing that's going to decide this, is who are going to be our standout players and who are the ones who are going to make plays. I am worried about Detroit not giving a balls about this game and St. Brown not getting love and them going to other people, but I'm going to put him in. I'm worried about the matchup choices I have to make, but number one on my worry list, CMC Music Factory against Washington and San Francisco. They have a point to prove. They were embarrassed on national TV. The offense, I mean, McCaffrey did fine, but Purdy did horrible. Washington sucks all the butts. I'm kind of worried that this might be a McCaffrey gets 28 carries and 10 catches kind of game. And if that happens, I think you're taking the bronze. If it doesn't, I think this is actually going to be a much tighter matchup. I think Yahoo be damned. This one's coming down to the wire, buddy. Good luck. Here it is, the pinnacle of the year. Who stands tall second year in a row for the trophy that Marco refused to name? Connor, Seamus, you've been back and forth 1 and 2 all season. Gene the Machine, you were the hottest team for a while there. You are number 1 seed both in wins and I believe in points. I guess in theory this is the matchup the league deserved. Kind of wish I could have snuck in, but hey, I'm not going to lie to you, Gene. If they put up 190 against you, you might be the only guy that is not intimidated by that because you put up your 190s in your day. So knowing, though, how fantasy sports goes, this will be won by 142 to 150 or 130 something because it always seems like an underperformance. Although with this lineup, that would take some injuries. You have enough guys that can go off. In terms of quarterbacks, in theory, I think Connor and Seamus have the edge, but Mahomes has not been playing super well lately, and Carr just randomly has been having games. So I'm giving the edge to the Troopas here, but I'm open to suggestions. Receivers, I got to do the same, but you got to be a little worried about Debo, about a bounce back game. If Allen's staying healthy, he's put up big numbers, but Paca Nakua, Diggs, and Lamb, that's a tight 3 receivers. We'll see how it goes. Now, again, game script-wise with the Rams, they might not need Paca Nakua as much, which comes into my running backs in just a second. But Diggs has been a fart in the wind the last couple weeks. CD has not, so I still expect it to go your way. Running backs, though, I'm going the other way. Gene the Machine, I think Taylor's coming back again. He's used to the comeback games, and I think Williams with the game script could be looking tough against the Giants. Bijan could get 40, could get 2, or anything in between. But Gibbs should be fairly consistent. But again, I said in my matchup, I am worried about Detroit in terms of what they choose to do. I'm going with McBride just out of spite because Pitts I hate so much. But now that's the thing. He's probably going to go off for 3 touchdowns because I said that. Not cheering against Eugene. It's just Pitts drives me nuts. Giving Gene the edge on the flex here, though, Ridley is about as consistent as Herpes, unfortunately. So he could have a monster game, but he might not. Jacobs, if he's healthy, should do well against Indy, but you might want to look at your bench here, which you do have a decent bench. You got some injury issues and some things to think about, obviously, and you got some options there. In terms of your defense, I think the Jets against Cleveland, again, maybe you go Joey Flacco. Maybe you make Thursday interesting for all of us, something to look at. Maybe not if the Jets are your pick. We'll see how it goes. I think you also do have an option there, although Indy looked horrible last week. Chicago against Atlanta could be a tough one. Atlanta's offense goes in spurts, and Chicago's defense might be tight. But you are 2 people that are active on the waiver wire. You are 2 people that make a lot of these moves throughout the week. So I noticed you've already jumbled your rosters up, and you've put some people up and down. I'm excited to see how it happens. I just want an exciting one. Either way, though, it is likely our best 2 that made it in. And so let's have you have at it for the whole league. Here's hoping to a good final. Good luck, gents. The matchups are now set. You know what odd number you're playing for. Are you in the 7th game? Are you in the 5th/consolation final game? Are you in the bronze? Or are you one of the 2 teams that climbed to the top and you're playing for the unnamed championship? Either way, it should be all set for you. Now, I keep saying things like watch ahead to the schedule. I got to think the people who are watching this do watch the schedule, but just in case, once again, we have a different schedule for this weekend. Only one real hitch. Yes, there's a Thursday. Yes, look on Saturday, but everything else is Sunday. Technically, if you're on my side of the pond currently, it's technically Monday morning, but there is no Monday night game. They're cutting it loose. It is, I believe, a big day for college football, if you are familiar, so they don't want to get in the way of that one. So everything will be decided. If you're the kind of person who watches till the ends of the hours and you watch the whole games, great for you. If you're the kind of person who wakes up on Monday and then thinks, what do I need to do in tonight's game? It's already done at that point. So on Monday, we should know everything. You know our money winners, and we will definitely know our champions. So nothing left to say, folks, but best of luck in our final week.